all the time. I love them.
Sorry, we can just keep continuing the banter. I mean, there's no.
Yeah. Well, as I asked because I started to experience that today. I've had my pros for, I don't know, a couple months now, and they've been great, but I don't know. I put them both back in the case, and I went to put them back in earlier, whatever. The left one was at 100%. The right one didn't connect. It was just blank. And so, yeah, so I like plugged them in for several hours. I left them charging in the case, whatever. The one didn't charge. I just checked the case again, and it said that the right one was at 10%. The left one was at 100%, and the case was at 90%. So I just saw that you're wearing them. I thought I'd ask, but yeah, I'm now trying to.
Time to make a trip. It's time to make a trip to the Apple store again.
Yeah, I'm hoping I don't have to, but I'll keep Googling before I try and do that.
Mine have been through the wash 3 times and they still work.
Really?
Wow.
I thought that's what would kill it.
Impressive. That's that would be the equivalent of like a lot of sweat. So good on you.
A lot of sweat.
Yeah. I'm shocked every time. I'm like, oh, probably dead now.
I'm impressed. I thought I lost mine, which was like the worst feeling, and then my buddy found it on his couch.
Oh yeah, I'm relieved to hear that you found them.
Oh yeah, because I asked you if you.
Yeah, I scoured the bedroom. I didn't find any.
Yeah. Oh well, but I got it, so we're good. Now I have 2 sets. Okay. Well, we got. Again, I just introduced Scott, but Nat, this is Ari. I met him through the car world out here in Massachusetts. Have a lot of mutual friends and a lot of car encounters and whatnot. But Ari, I think, is one of the most, and I'm biased, but I think he's one of the most interesting car personalities in the area because he just can't seem to keep one car for that long, but also has a very long history of different car ownership and has a lot of perspective, and I think is a pretty valuable voice for me. And so hence why he's here. So Ari, do you want to like tell us just kind of a little bit about yourself, maybe a brief introduction, who you are, what you do, but also like why you got into cars and where it's led to you now?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So Ari, it's my name. I'm in the IT world. I run a cybersecurity / managed services company. So nothing to do with cars, but that's just that's what I use to feed the drug habit. The cars are. I remember being a little kid. I was born in Afghanistan, of all places, and I remember my dad telling me about the United States, and he's describing this lush land that we're going to go to, and all I wanted to know was, what kind of cars are there? I'm 4 years old, and that's all I cared about. What kind of cars are there? And it's never stopped. When I was 6, 7 years old, I used to read the Consumer Reports. Used to have this annual book that came out that had all of the cars with their MSRPs, their invoice price, the option packages, and I would build my ideal spec of each car in this book. I was like 7 years old, and I'm building I definitely want, power windows. I don't want to crank my own. I'm thinking about that when I was a kid. Just so it's always been there, and I enjoy the build process. I enjoy the creation of something. But there's in the car world, there's so many different paths you can go. So you get bored of sticking with one. You want to try them all. That's what John was alluding to. I think I've owned 60 plus cars, 70 cars, something like that. Maybe even more. I don't even know anymore.
What do you have now? Because last time we spoke, which was like 6 months ago, I don't think you have any of the cars that I last saw you with, right?
Probably don't. Yeah. So right now, at this very moment, I have one car. Believe it or not, John. Right now, I have a 2020 Jeep Gladiator. That's it. And if John, you know me, I've had like 7 cars at once, 8 cars at once. That's typically my normal, like my driveway's just cluttered with cars. But right now I have just the one. Wow. I have the Lotus Emira on order. And I have another one that's in transit right now. I just picked up a 718 Spider from California that's being delivered. Yeah. So, but right at the moment.
Special color?
I got Miami blue.
Oh, let's go. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was what did it for me. I either wanted Miami blue or chalk, and I found that Miami blue, and I was like, "Oh, that's loud." but I can fit the midlife crisis mold right now. So let's do it.
All your neighbors are probably used to that Suzuka R8 that you had.
Oh yeah, I got to give a shout out to my neighbors. They've never once complained. I've had the Shelbys in here, and I've had the R8 with the supercharger and the Fab Speed exhaust that was berserk loud. John, you remember my Ducati? I scared the crap out of you in the garage.
Yeah.
Shooting flames out of the Ducati.
Yeah.
Neighbors they've never bothered me. They're 150 feet away. I can see their backyard looking out this window here. But they've never said a word. And
They're saints for that.
yeah, I got
It takes one bad neighbor.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's
So yeah,
cool.
that's me. That's the story of Ari.
Love that.
It's a good.
What's been your
smart
favorite
answer.
car of your many that you've had?
What's that?
What's been your favorite?
Oh man, come on, man. That's a
Put you right on the
tricky
spot.
question.
You know better than that, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even
find
answer that question.
No, it's impossible. It's impossible. I could name, the favorite thing of every car that I've owned. There's been something that's made that car my favorite for some reason or another. I bought them for a reason. There's been a few flops in there. There's been a few that I'm like, oh boy, why did I do this? I won't name one of them because John and I had a little conversation about this one. We'll skip past that one.
That's what I have.
Yeah, I've had a couple of flops that that would.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't take any offense. I take no offense to it.
Hey, you know what? Everybody's needs and tastes are different. What works for me won't work for you, and vice versa. I think for me, it was. If you guys haven't figured out, I'm talking about an F80 M3 that I purchased.
Yeah.
My problem was what I was trying to do with the car. So, I was trying to make it be a daily driver in New England, and I wanted a light interior. I settled on a dark interior. I wanted a bright color. I got tanzanite blue, which isn't bright. It's almost black in most light. So it was just a fail. And I wanted a manual, and I got a DCT. So it was like a failed experiment from the beginning. So that's why I rag on that car, but it had a lot of potential. I got the right one.
But you've also had an M2 competition and some other BMWs that supplemented it. So was it?
Yeah.
Did you think it was a move in the right direction having that, or was it just the platform in general didn't seem like your style?
Honestly, the DCT killed it for me. The DCT was what did it. Yeah, the shift logic. I like to drive it in the most aggressive throttle response and shift setting. The 3 lines.
Yeah.
Race car setting.
Yeah, exactly. But in that setting, apparently, it also means that you drive like you just learned how to drive a stick shift when you're creeping at a red light or just launching it in casual street mode. So I would constantly have to change from the first line, the comfort mode, and then as I got rolling, I would switch back to the fast, the better shifts and the better throttle response. And
That's funny.
I could never get.
That's like the opposite of the SMG and the E46, which was if you put it in the one line, it literally was like it had never driven stick before. But if you turn traction control off and put it in S6, it finally figured out what to do.
That's funny. Yeah.
Complete opposite.
The manual transmission M2 comp was a fantastic car. It came at a time where I had 5 or 6 other cars alongside it, and it just never got driven. It just sat there, and I feel bad for it because of the company that it was in. But that was a fantastic car. So I can see the appeal of the BMW platform. The monstrous torque down low right off the line. It's a fantastic platform. The rev matching downshifts. I don't care how many people say it's sacrilegious to use rev matching auto blip features. Give me auto blip all day. I'll do it myself. I know how to do it.
You also had a GT4, which had, from my experience, the best auto blipper I've ever used. It was so good. It almost, for me at the time, I was it felt like it made dual clutches kind of irrelevant, just because you just go through all the dramatic motions of doing a manual, but without any of the consequences, right? You just throw it in whatever gear and you're good. And it's immediately 100%. There.
You're 100% right. Yeah. I love being able to do it. I love knowing I can do it. But if the system can do it better than I can, and I still get to do the 3-pedal dance, I'm fine with that. I'm
I'm
fine with that all day.
There's been, I think it was a 370Z I drove, and that was like the first, at least that I know of, car with the auto blip feature,
Mhm.
and that did feel like it was half a second behind, which then becomes like an issue, and you're like, it doesn't become second nature. Like you also have to think of it kind of the way you were describing the DCT, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna turn this off. This is just annoying. Like I'm putting it in gear, it had to wait a second, then it's gonna get there. Like I'll just do it myself and go
Yep.
for it, but.
The measure of a good auto blip system to me is what happens if you rev match when the system is activated. And the Porsche got that right. If you went in and heel toed yourself, it automatically overrode the system and let you do your thing. Cars like the 370Z, the C7 Corvette, they didn't do that. So they would fight with you, and that's not fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no favorites to answer your question. It's impossible.
Well, I guess if you pick on that, I'm gonna have a question that tangents from that. But if you were to build, let's say, your perfect favorite feature of any, it's like certain thing, your perfect car, what would you nitpick from what cars and why?
Well, so I mean, assuming physics doesn't have to play a part in this, because
Throw
this
physics
is a big
out.
part. Because it has to be, for me, it has to be a four-seater, four-door car. I love nothing more than going on a fun back road drive for several hours up Vermont or Maine or wherever with my kids, with my wife. The four of us in the car. I have an enthusiast son, John, you've met him, Cameron. He runs circles around me now and what he knows about cars. So I love that aspect. So let's put physics aside, because you can't have multiple things like this together. But I would want, it has to be at that like 10 pounds to a horsepower. I'm sorry, 100 pounds to 10 pounds to a horsepower number.
Yeah, 10 pounds.
Yeah, so like 300 horsepower, 3,000 pounds, right around that mark. Fits four doors. Fits the four kids in comfort. Has to be a manual. It has to have, ideally, it can't have the electronic steering systems that are out there today. It has to, give me some good old fashioned feedback. Give me a good rev matching system. That's actually really high on the list for me because I enjoy that feature. And that's my list right there. If I could find
like
a car
so close to being just an E39 M5, and then it needs auto rev matching
with some power.
The closest I came to that car. I'm sorry. It has to also be rear all-wheel drive with the option to go rear-wheel drive. And the closest I found to that car was the Civic Type R in one way, because it was lightweight. It had the rev matching downshifts, fit the kids, all that fun stuff. Like 3,100 pounds or so. But front-wheel drive, I don't know, it kind of hurts the experience a little bit. And then the other side is the manual G80 M3, the new one, but that's nowhere near 3,000 pounds. It's more like what, 3,750, 3,800.
You're coming in on four.
Porker.
Right. Exactly. So that's you can't have that ideal car. I need ultimately multiple cars, but I'm always in the wrong one when I do that. When I have my daily and my sports car, I'm always in the wrong car. I'll drop the kids off, and then I wish I was in the sports car suddenly. I want to teleport to the other car. But... So yeah.
And you've had such I remember you were mentioning stories when you were younger with like the Montego Blue RX-7 and those times when you were maybe closer to our age or something, but were there like experiences that you had when you were in that RX-7 or any of the older cars that you like wish you could like recreate now?
Oh, absolutely. But more than the experiences in the car, it's the scene is what I remember and missed the most. The automotive scene was different. You went to automotive parts shops. I remember going to RPM Motorsports and Auto Design House in Brookline or Brighton or wherever the heck it was. And you'd have this community that was present and not just on social media. I miss that a lot. That was by far my favorite part of the automotive scene. That's what drew me into these cars even more. But as far as the cars themselves, talking about the vehicles, as a piece of machinery, everything was analog. I mean, you were manhandling the car. The car wasn't controlling you. There was the nannies were few and far between, everything was just organic and raw and visceral, and you just, that's a lost trait today in today's cars. Even the cars that are known to be raw and visceral and all those words that I just used that are cliches at this point, they they still are lacking in those areas. So that's what I miss, man. Give me some of that.
Yeah, and you've bounced back between like having new cars and having you. I mean, I've seen you gone from having like 5 brand new cars to like, oh, I'm only gonna buy cars of like 125,000 miles or more, and like completely swapped from one end to the other. Is there? I mean, maybe it's a like rhetorical question, but is there like a reason swapping between the two? Is it because you want to like have older cars that have that more like visceral feeling, and then you like come back and like, oh, I want modern amenities, or how does that like thought process usually work?
I respect and appreciate all aspects of the automotive world. I respect the hell out of a machine that you can just hold the brake, hold the gas, and then just drop the brake and pull off a 2.80 to 60 repeatedly every single time. I have a ton of respect for that, and there's a lot of enjoyment in that, and I want to experience that. So I do get into, the RS3s. I've had 3 RS3s and a TTRS with the little 5-cylinder machines in there. That there's an appeal there. So I want to experience that. I want to enjoy that. But often what happens is I'm in one of those cars for however long, a week, a month, a year, who knows, never a year, 6 months, 8 months. And then I start getting those cravings for that sports car again. Now I want to get behind the wheel of a proper manual, lightweight, rear-wheel drive, mid-engine. So the reason for the switch is I want to try all those other things, but I always default back to the true sports car. And for me, that's mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission. Come right back to that.
The Lotus formula.
The Lotus formula. Oh, don't get me started on Lotus right now. I'm irritated with Lotus and where they're going. But
Really?
But yeah,
the electric car thing, or
No,
like,
just
what is it exactly?
the Amira. I'm watching all these reviews and reading all about what that car is, the new Amira model. I have one on order. I'm actually like number 13 in the States or something like that. So I'm going to get one of the early ones. But I listened to a previous episode with you gentlemen talking. I think it was the last episode, maybe one before, and you guys were talking about how when these brands converge, how they lose their identity and they lose that specialness. And that's what we're dealing with, I think, with Lotus. They're trying to fit all of these non-Lotus things in there. I mean, like a virtual cockpit and actual in-car entertainment, not like a Pioneer head unit that they just threw in at the last minute because somebody wanted music,
That was exactly what your Evora was. It literally thrown in. It was like, whatever, here you go. Use your FM radio.
You guys know when you get one of those aftermarket double din stereos put in and they have that little microphone you clip onto the visor, they actually had that microphone installed above the rear view mirror. In a 2021 $100,000 Lotus, that microphone is still there. They couldn't even touch it.
They couldn't even tuck it away.
That made that car so special. Every time I got in and saw that little emblem that said it was, the autographed name of who assembled it, and that sign was crooked, I love that. It shows that somebody actually put that on like a Friday, and he was half drunk, and he was like,
definitely like 3 pints deep.
Right. And I love that, though. That it made it so special. I felt like I was in something special. And now to know that,
there's so much character. My old Discovery is like that. Like you can tell it was built by somebody.
Right.
It's built by a person.
And that, to me, that's Lotus. That's the identity of Lotus. And I'm looking at the inside, and they're having Polestar in-car entertainment and Volvo technology, and the windshield wiper stock is a Volvo part. They already have a Toyota engine, for crying out loud. I mean, the Camry motor. It's when you put all these things together, it really it's sad. It's sad. I wish they stuck to the formula that they had. You want to add some of the comfort, they have to battle Porsche, and Porsche's been incorporating comfort and luxury into sports cars for a long time now. You want to come at them and battle them, that's fine, but you don't want to become a Walmart Porsche. You want to stick to being a Lotus while incorporating some of those things,
Yeah.
They're trying to do big things.
I don't know if that's ever worked historically for Lotus. Being Lotus tends to make them run out of money pretty quickly.
That's true. That's true. But I think that cult fall, I mean, that's what it's after. They're after, the market share and increasing their sales. And that's great. They're going to do that. They're going to get exactly what they want. I feel like the same thing has happened with Apple, since the visionary world of the,
that's not a super visionary.
That's gone. Yeah, they have
It's the
three
same thing.
formulas and they just milk it.
The Apple I worked at was build what works, not innovate. Yeah.
Right. I mean, they've been doing that since Steve Jobs has been gone. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
You have your iPhone, your Mac, and whatever else, and
it's clear it works, though, right?
It works.
Clear
I mean,
it works.
they're still printing money, so.
Yeah, exactly. So in Lotus,
Apple
I think it's going to go the same way.
Toyota.
Yeah,
that's what's happened.
Yeah, I think Lotus
make the same formula work for 20 years.
Yep, Lotus is going to sell a ton of units. I think they already told me they had like 3,500 orders in for this new car. I don't think they sold 3,500 cars in the U.S. in the last 20 years, and they've already sold 3,500. So, it's going to work, but that doesn't mean that's what I want. So,
yeah, I mean, there seems to be a constant disconnect between like what enthusiasts want, which is often not the mass appeal, right? It's just, I want everything to be carbureted, manual transmission, hand cranked. They just have all these like wishes, but like in reality, the people aren't buying that in volume and making the margins they want. But I think it was Johnny Lieberman, the auto journalist from Motor Trend, that had mentioned, and I said this in the last podcast, that there'll be 3 brands that will just all, it's an exaggeration maybe, but 3 brands and Morgan, right? Like Morgan's like the epitome of, we have our one thing we do, and we're not trying to be Porsche, we're not trying to be anything else, but like that's the direction we're in. And if I guess in the gamut of it all, you have your Porsche on one end or Toyota, and then you're like Morgan, and then Lotus has to try to find that balance, right?
Morgan recently innovated. The 3-wheeler now has the engine inboard. It's not.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
That's true.
Welcome to 1940.
It's a big change.
It's the companies have to do what they have to do with what their set of goals at. When Lotus was taken over, they made it clear that they were going to go that direction, and that's the way that they're doing exactly what they should do. Ultimately, it's up to us enthusiasts. The take rate of manual transmission is awful. I mean, outside of like some Porsche
GT3s.
units,
I think it's
GT3s,
right? The GT3s and maybe even like the
GTIs, right? Aren't like the Volkswagen GTIs? It's like half and half or something. Like pretty astonishing.
GTI really shouldn't be. It's not a good manual. It's kind of rough.
Which is also it's a good point though, because I make this a lot. Like I'd rather I'd rather have a decent automatic than a bad manual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
absolutely.
I understand the whole like save the manuals like force, but like at least make it a good one. And there are bad ones out there, and it's manual labor at that point, and I just refuse to do it. But I'm gonna check on the GTI market share here.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious what that take rate is on that one. It's they've got to make good manuals, and I still don't think we'll buy them.
If you make a good manual, it sells, because Honda only puts manuals in the SI and the Type R.
Yeah,
they sell them.
Yeah,
but Honda makes a great shifter. I don't think I'll ever beat that unless I get into something really, really expensive. Like I still haven't found a car that shifts better than my SI that I had in college.
Yeah, my S2000 is. Yeah, my S2000 was a fantastic shifter too. I loved it. I loved everything about it. There's so much that goes into a good shifter, and Honda just nails it. You're 100% right about that.
It's so intuitive. Like I could take that car to the track, and I never thought I was going to miss a shift. It was just like found the right spot, found the right spot, found the right spot. It's so perfect.
Yeah, they nail it. They get it right.
With all like the cross collaboration, and you can like just reverse engineer the Honda shifter. Like I don't know why more car manufacturers like stop making terrible manuals. And I just looked it up.
I also think Honda probably puts a lot of money into that, John, because making a front-wheel drive car shift like that is difficult. And like the Civic
but it's it's cable actuated the same way Porsches are. I mean, you isolate it from the thing. It's just all in the shifter at that point.
Yeah. but it's that you spend money to do that. Like, how much did Porsche's GT division spend to develop the 6-speed?
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Porsche.
Continue. Sorry.
I
I was
was
just gonna say
Porsche.
Volkswagen.
All right, go ahead.
There you
Go ahead, John. It's all you, John.
You can talk
That
about
was
Volkswagen.
44% take rate for the GTI and R on manuals.
That's really good.
Yeah,
That's really good because that's not
really
a good
good.
shifter.
No,
Yeah.
I had a Golf R and 3 Mark 7 GTIs over the last 6 years or so, all Mark 7s, and I'm a manual enthusiast. I've got the shirt and everything, but I got all of them with DSGs for a good reason. Actually, no, my last one that VW bought back because of that whole stalling issue they were having in 2019. That one was a manual, but every other one was a DSG because the manual was just not good.
What's
Just
the
didn't do it
stalling
right.
issue?
Civic in college too, because I drove the Mach 7. It was like the power is not worth. The
Yeah.
power and practicality was not worth that shifter.
Right. John, the stalling issue was so silly. I got the car, I had like 200-300 miles. I'm driving my kid to school, and I come up to a red light, and I'm like, oh, I stalled. I never stall, and I just stalled, and my son's making fun of me. I start the car, keep driving, does it again. I come up to another red light. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? So this time I pull up to a light. I'm in my like freaking out mode. So I'm analyzing the gauges. I'm watching everything. My foot's on the clutch, and I watched the tachometer just drop to 0. So it happened like 8 or 9 times on that one drive. I had the car towed to the dealer. They said, oh no, it's a software update. It has something to do with the auto start stop system. They didn't fully disable it like they should have, or some nonsense. They did the software update, got the car back. It was good for about 3-4 days. I called the dealer. I was like, hey, this is good. He's like, yeah, that sounds good. You're good to go. I got the windows tinted and got the car like ceramic coated and all the other BS, thinking it's good now. And it started doing it again. I took it back. I got a call from VW corporate saying this problem is not going to be fixed. You can, at this point, it's not going to be fixed because we don't have a fix. So you can either sign a waiver that you will no longer bring it to service, or we'll buy it back. And I was like, yeah, you'll buy it back. I'm not going to sign a waiver that I'm not going to bring this car. But they took care of me. VW did really well. This was obviously after Dieselgate and everything. So they were paranoid about another.
On their best behavior.
They paid for my ceramic coating. They paid for my window tint that I had done. I bought a home link device that it's like a hard button that you can install in the car. They reimbursed me for that, and they gave me a $2,500 voucher towards a future Audi or VW product, which I used on the Q8 that I had. So they did well. I was happy with how they handled it. But that was a manual. That was the only Mark 7 manual, and it wasn't a good one. I think somebody, I don't know, John, if that was you that asked why don't they just reverse engineer it and put the Honda shifter in any car. I think they're everything is about the paper racing, as my wife and I call it. You know, everybody wants the fastest 0 to 60 number, and nobody's buying the manuals because the autos are faster. The C7 Corvette, towards the end of the life of the Z06, everybody was, going nuts over the automatic transmission. That's an awful automatic on that C7 Corvettes. It's awful, but because it's like 0.3 of a second faster in a quarter mile when you start building them a little bit, people are buying them. It's awful, Let's stop paper racing. Let's actually drive the cars.
That's definitely why Ferrari doesn't offer a manual right now. Is the speed.
Yeah,
I remember that was one of my takeaways from working at Apple. Was I got to drive a manual Ferrari, and you have to shift it so slow with the gates. Like there's no way to shift
so
it fast.
slow.
It's like, and the throw's super long. I'm like, that's why they don't make it anymore.
Yeah.
You could not get good lap times. Like if you were
Even though
trying
it's
to show
glorious.
off, yeah, it would be a big difference between the dual clutch and that transmission.
Yeah.
It's a glorious transmission and shift.
Everybody, you're so right about everybody.
You can't go fast with it.
Yeah, everybody goes nuts over the gated manual in the R8. It's cool. I love the sound of the metal, the snick, as you. I love all that, but that's not a good transmission. I don't know. Maybe compared to like other. Yeah, John, man. Compared to like other Audi, Volkswagen manuals, maybe it's really good, but it's not a really good transmission overall. So I never got the hype.
I'll take the GT4 shifter any day, dude.
I don't know. I think I'm going to be chasing that Ferrari my whole life. So,
I think it
that
depends
idea.
a lot on.
Don't get upset if it doesn't doesn't meet it when you have it, but then you just sell it, and then
Don't
if
meet your
that's the
heroes,
idea.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Don't meet heroes.
I got a craving for an S2000 again recently. John, I talked to you about this. I flew all the way out there to go drive it, and yeah, it was just, it's
Was
not
it
what I
Kansas
remembered
or
it
something?
to Kansas. Yeah, I flew out there to
Kansas.
buy it and drive it home. I got to driving it, and I was like, oh boy. There was a couple of little issues, but I found any excuse I could to get out of that purchase because it just wasn't. It's not what I remembered it to be. I've come through a lot of cars since my last S2000, and I've experienced a lot of things, and it just wasn't the same as it was when I remembered it from my younger days. But
Yeah, the
is what it
S2000 is
is.
like a touch old man feeling.
Yeah.
Like everything's
In what
feels
way?
kind
What
of
do you mean?
soft. It's got the same problem the Corvette has. It's like it was made for old people.
Old small
That's what you
people.
get from S2000. Yeah, small people. I mean,
Yeah,
you
that's
might.
what I got.
Well,
Well, at least
yeah.
like the one I drove at autocross in grad school, I was like, yeah, feels like it's kind of an old man car. It felt like a
Interesting.
Corvette.
I don't understand.
Not like a Corvette.
yeah.
The Corvette has that same like feeling where I was like, this was designed for 55 to 65. And the S2000 was similar to that, I think.
Interesting. I when you said old man car, I thought you were referring to how it's just older technology. It's an older
No.
platform, but you mean it's, yeah. I never matched those
I
two
never
up.
got that. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
it felt
Corvette
very
definitely has it because
high-
like it doesn't feel like a muscle car. I'm like, wow, this is like everything's light and it feels like it was designed for doing cruising slowly. It's
Wow.
really good at that. And
Everything's
the
assisted.
S2000 was kind of like an old man roadster
Huh.
in my mind. I was like, this feels like not like a track weapon to me.
I think
But
you're the
It's
first
not-
person I've heard say that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to drive one again with that frame of mind.
drive
and
one with
see.
stock suspension because I think that's
Yeah.
what really did it. Like
Yeah.
fully stock, it had a ton of compliance, which I wasn't expecting. So I was like, wow, this feels like soft and wallowy, like an old.
So how do you feel about Miatas then?
Oh,
Do you
I
get
love
the same?
They roll. I like the ND because it rolls. But I think the S2000 in my head, I was like, this is going to be like a sports car, and it ended up being more like Miata. Because I love the Miata is an old school roadster. It wallows. It's great. So it makes it fun. You can slide it because it leans so much, not because it has power.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had like 12 or 13 Miatas. That's my fallback. When I get frustrated with techie cars, like modern tech cars,
Miata.
my palate cleanser is a Miata, and then I get back into where I want to go. I've had
That's
so
a
many.
good
John,
palate cleanser.
I have that photo,
That's a
John,
great-
right here that you took of my
I
last
know.
Miata.
That
Sitting
was
right next to
that
me.
was a very enjoyable drive, but it also it made me experience something that I haven't in a while. Besides like going too far when I'm driving, like when I was in high school, driving my dad's like Saab 900, which was just an hour felt too long. But when I drove it, when you allowed me to drive for like the weekend, and I think I drove to upstate New York and back. By the time I was done, although 6 hours in a car is a lot, I was more exhausted in that than I have been in a lot of cars. And I like get that it's meant for like just around town or like a track day or like short stints, but
Yeah.
it made me appreciate like the GT-ness of something a lot more than I really realized. Maybe it was experience or whatnot, but I remember being genuinely tired by the end of it. And so
it was, it did have sport suspension and sway bars and all that stuff, and it had the Recaro seats, which are more for hugging you rather than comfort. So yeah, that one wasn't really well set up for long drives.
and it
But
felt so good everywhere else, and I remember just like ogling over it for that reason. It just, I mean, maybe the seats are one thing, but I'm used to like at this point like hard bucket seats. It's not too much out of the realm. It's just like tire noise or just like size, and like you're on the highway and people will like start merging into you and all these like things that like you just never realize before like getting into the car and actually experiencing it, right? So
I felt like with that last point you just made of like watching for cars merging and all of that nonsense, it's almost, you have to kind of be on edge at all times. It's almost like riding a motorcycle where you're so, I mean, to ride safely you have to really be alert and aware of your surroundings at all times, and that's exhausting. That gets tiring,
it's just thoughts. You like think, and that, I mean, transition to Matt's like in our group, he's like the old man of us, and he loves his like big comfy Mercedes, and like the complete
Yes,
antithesis
I-
of the Miata, basically.
I was gonna ask, like, have you had any like big fast cars? I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've had a RS7, a 2016 RS7. John, you snapped a really nice rolling picture that I still have of that one. But I had an RS7. I had a S8 Plus. I've had a couple of AMG cars,
Yeah.
even big non-AMG cars way back when, probably before half of you were born, even maybe. I had an E400, 1992 E400,
Oh, that's
400E. Sorry,
awesome.
400E.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
four, yeah, and that thing was badass. So I've had some of the big cars like that, and
Yeah.
like I said earlier, I appreciate all characteristics of cars, not just the sports car side. And yeah, there's certainly a, a great deal of enjoyment that comes out. It's different. It's just a different experience.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I like my RS7 a lot. I drove that one probably the most out of the cars I've owned recently.
You did drive them a lot. It was a great spec. It was what, Sepang over Lunar, right? That was
Yeah, Sepang,
That's
Lunar. Yeah, it was a great spec.
That's very
And
sharp.
yeah, I've had two Sepang Lunar cars. I also had a B8.5 S4 that was Sepang with the Panda Lunar, but it was still
Oh wow.
Was that the one that got rear-ended?
yeah,
H2O?
H2O.
Sepang
Oh,
8.5s are
man.
pretty rare as is. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I had that puppy rear-ended by some little Honda driver I was watching him in the rear view. He's weaving through the lanes. I'm just going up and down the cruise coming back from Wawa with some coffee. I'm looking in my rear view. I'm like, oh, this guy's driving like an idiot. And as soon as I look back ahead, I feel the thud from behind.
Oh, that's awful.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
H2O for you.
Yeah, exactly. If that's the worst that happened, I'm doing all right. At least I didn't get
Yeah,
tased
dude.
like that other guy. Remember?
Yeah, right. Could be doing a lot worse. That's
We saw
No,
that,
that was-
too. We were right there
Yeah.
when that happened.
I have a video clip. I don't remember who took it, but it's in my photo library of like he's right in front of us. I don't remember where we were, but that video I have.
You were
is
at that
like-
restaurant right across the street.
Oh, that's right. We were sitting outside on the little.
Yeah, I was facing the wrong way because I just heard a bunch of ohs, and I have to. By the time I swapped back, there's just a whole crowd surrounding it. So I missed actually seeing it, but I saw everything else that was around it.
So if we were
That's
across the street, somebody must have sent me that video. Then that's how it ended up in my photo library. I must have
Yeah, it's
saved
probably
it, 'cause
the video. Yeah.
I was like, I know I wasn't that drunk because the video is right in front of the action. I don't remember being on that side of the street. So either I was really, really drunk or somebody sent me that video.
Yeah,
Good
it's
stuff, man.
oh man, that's one of the things that H2O is like I'm torn on it because it's just absolute mayhem. Like now, what takeovers are, but there's sort of no place like it. It just now it's almost like the last time I went was I guess 2 years ago now. It was like the year after we went, and it was just like unvisitable. I know that's not a word. It just you couldn't be there. It would just look like a police like like I don't know. It was all fenced off, and they just blocked the strip at that point. So no one's really going there anymore. But
the year we went though, John, remember earlier I was talking about the scene from back when I was younger. It felt like that again, and I love that. I couldn't get enough of that. I didn't want to leave. I was like, can we just do this for 2 more weeks, please? It brought back all those feelings.
Wait, so describe that. I mean, I'm the only like part of I guess car culture and that feeling. I wasn't experiencing it, but I can when you were younger. And what was it like? What were the like different like types of meets or events or things that you did?
Well, I mean, you'd get together at a buddy's house in your cars, and you'd all go out and cruise around Boston for an hour or two, and then you'd go to like, I remember there was Auto Design House. You know where is that? There's like a 88 market or something in Boston. Where is that? You know what I'm talking about? It's like a Chinese market.
Yeah.
Right?
Is it Chinatown specifically?
No,
or
I'm trying to remember where the heck it is. I think it's right near Northeastern, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
But right around there was a shop that was called Auto Design House, HAUS, Auto Design House. And it was right on that corner. And we would all go cruise around for a couple of hours. Then we'd meet there, pull up all the cars up in front of the place. And we'd all just sit there and just talk cars like we would do at H2OI for hours into the middle of the night. And then we'd go out and cruise around again and drive down to like Brockton on Route 24 and do drag racing. And it was, it wasn't like you had to wait for this one event that was coordinated on Facebook that everybody, said that they're interested in. You just, you just knew where to go. There was these designated spots that everybody met up. It was either RPM Motorsports or it was the little KTA Motorsports in Randolph that everybody would meet up at. I used to work at KTA Motorsports in Randolph, and it was this tiny little shop that was the size of like one of those, those little pop-up cell phone stores that you see someplace that are like 4 feet wide and like 30 feet long. It was like one of those places. Yeah. It was like one of those. And we used to just meet up and just hang out, talking cars all night long, revving our engines in the back. Police didn't give us a hard time. It was just a whole different kind of laid back experience. We weren't, the competition level was way lower. Everybody was just there to kind of express their own creativity with their cars. You weren't worried about who's doing what with their horsepower levels and who's running, 10-second. We weren't running 10s. We were lucky to run 13s, So it was just a different atmosphere. The safety level was higher because the cars were slower, so you could drive more enthusiastically. You can't even push these cars these days on public streets. You shouldn't. So all of that just made it. Yeah, man. It was just a different vibe. It was a completely different vibe. I miss it.
Do you think like advent of cell phones and just like the ease of communications made it worse in a way? Like I know it's a bigger question than just cars, but like it affected it clearly. I mean,
it did affect it. I think technology and social media have affected communication in every way imaginable, not just in the car world, but just how we communicate with each other. I mean, I always try to pick up the phone and call people, but even I've resorted to texting as my primary, method of communication. And it's just not the same. Hearing someone's voice is different. Being able to flex how fast your car is to someone over social media is very different than standing in front of them, on Route 24 in Brockton. And you don't have that same level of hide behind the computer, hide behind the technology. You're more visible, so you have to be careful with how you say things, what you say, how you communicate. All of that layer just makes it so you get the internet tough guys out there, and that's one side of it. But the other side is we've resorted to, like I said earlier, the whole paper racing, where everybody's chasing spec sheets to compare if their car's better. Forget about, do you enjoy driving your car? They might not enjoy driving their car, but if it's on paper faster, then
and sometimes it's not even faster. Just, I mean, it's one-upping. They're always going to have that sort of like red-blooded male competitive edge to it. And I 100% get it. Like, but I posted, I'll use this as an example as almost a different, because we can look at horsepower or quarter miles or whatever, especially in like the American like straight line sense. I like posted a picture. I was on like some Facebook car group of just like the wheels, like the BBSs I recently bought and like the tires I'm running. And most of them were like really positive, which I was appreciative, and I still love that part. And I can handle criticism, but one person was like, "Oh, you should have just gotten these lighter and stronger." And I posted on my story. I'm like, okay. Like, first of all, I just like prove it. Like, if you really want to make claims like that, but like unless I see like FEA analysis or like actual numbers, like don't say stuff like that. But it just like. And he's like, "Oh, well, these are better," and like this, it's a completely subjective thing at that point. It's just like it's a wheel, right? Like it doesn't. I'm not racing you, and it doesn't. We're not in VLN or GT3 or something ridiculous. Like it just. I don't know why it has to be a one up. Like there wasn't anything to one up in it, and some people are finding ways to.
That was fun.
One up, and I just think it was hilarious.
What gets me.
My story.
What gets me is when as soon as I'm talking to someone and they bring up that, well, mine does this in the Nürburgring. That's fantastic. I'm glad.
Right.
Let's go this weekend and take our cars. So we can't do that. So let's talk.
I think the best response is, but did you go that fast?
Yeah, right. How fast can you lap it?
But how fast did you go?
I can't break 8 minutes in Forza, so forget the actual track, man. It's to me, it's all about how it feels when you drive it. I don't care if you could say all day that the 718 Spider that's coming has only 414 horsepower or whatever the number is. I couldn't give two shits.
That's really the best part about it, because like that's my car enthusiasm basically stops in like 2010, because everything got too fast and it's not fun. Like I got one modern car that was quick. Like I had an S550 performance pack, and I was like, I can't use this anymore. Like I can't use it. And I went right back to the mid 2000s stuff, because you can actually have fun with it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's so true.
That Mustang was like, go to jail immediately if you wanted to have fun. It just
and that's not even like like GT 500 or something.
No, it wasn't even that fast.
Like,
it had like headers and a tune, but it still was way too quick to actually have fun with on the street.
I could never push my my most recent R8, the V10 with the supercharger. I think it had like 800 and something horsepower, but what are you going to do with that? Where are you going to flex that car's, when are you going to stretch its legs? There's no place to do that on the street.
A runway,
No, it's ridiculous. Like the Mustang wasn't even that fast, but if I did a third gear pull on an on-ramp, I was merging at twice the speed of traffic. Like it isn't safe anymore.
I woke up on a Sunday morning and the wife and kids were all sleeping. So I just hopped in the car and headed up north and went up the Kank in New Hampshire and did that back and forth like 5 or 6 times. I was gone for like 9-10 hours of driving. And on the Kank, I'm like, all right, I can't go full throttle for more than a couple of seconds, if that. I mean, a couple of seconds.
That's a long
time.
So
what do you do? That thing was fast and you couldn't use it. And it's like, that kills the experience for me if you can't use it. I want to be able to drive enthusiastically and enjoy that car's dynamics and all the stuff that makes it special. But if you can't use it, then what good is it?
I have a like theory about it, and then maybe like the direction of how we're describing, because it seems at this point the horsepower wars of just like there is no end. I mean, the newest one always has more horsepower. It's always quicker to 60, blah blah blah. But my theory is when the majority of cars are electric and it's just so much faster. Like a Plaid is just so much faster than everything else that's basically on the road. Realistically, right? Like people are going to talk about twin turbo Vipers or something nonsense like that. But realistically, you go into a dealership, you want to buy the fastest thing off the line, you just go and get a Plaid. And that's just going to become like the norm. Is as like dangerously unsafe as they are at this point. Like you can all you need is money and you just go and buy it. And a driver's license, I guess. But
the Plaid 06 is like the same as a rallycross car. Like
it's insane. But at a certain point, people are just going to be like, if racing, and now people are mentioning, like I want the sound, which is a legitimate, like it's a sensation, right? And then people are using the argument, I'd rather like hear it and feel it. But like, what's the difference of 500 versus 800 horsepower at that point? I'm hopeful. It's the optimist in me that's like people are just going to start appreciating cars for what they feel, because the norm is going to be so much more capable, right?
You can't even take fast street cars to the track anymore because you get kicked out of the drag strip the instant you run a 9 with no kick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You do one
I think they changed that recently, but
they just changed it. Yeah,
they just changed it.
They had to keep up with the times. You couldn't even bring a Dodge Demon to the track. The one thing it was good at.
Without a cage,
Without a cage.
I remember going to Epping with a whole bunch of friends and a bunch of the RS3 guys. And there was a guy there with a Turbo S convertible, 911 Turbo S convertible, like a 991.2. And he was going full tilt for 8th mile and then having to let off so he could not, so he could stay on the track and not go too fast. What's the point? I mean, I guess you're there to exploit, the car's power and really experiment with what you can do, but you have to let off halfway through the track because your car's too fast. I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe somebody else can appreciate that, but for me, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, maybe it's why we've gotten along, because we just kind of see eye to eye in this. But it's just I have to be more open-minded about like what people are in it for car enthusiasm, like what they actually, because some people like genuinely just want to go faster than the next person, and I have no qualms about it. It's just when I only have problems when people start like disrespecting others just because it's like they don't see the same way. So I can't again, I can't be a hypocrite and like and hate on people for that reason. It's just where does it end? Especially when safety becomes like a legitimate concern on the road.
Right.
Like it's not. I mean, especially in New England, you really can't use anything more than 400 horsepower.
Then you're like,
I mean,
get thrown off the road.
Yeah.
we must be approaching or at the limits of traction of tire technology meeting asphalt. At what point do we hit the limits of that? 1.990 to 60 for a factory plaid is ridiculous. And the fact that it can do very close to that on public streets, it can't do that. I guess Tesla said it needs proper track conditions, but it can hit like 2.10 to 60s and high nines. When are we going to hit the limits of traction? We've got to be really close to that.
Or comfort. I feel like that can't be comfortable.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be unsettling.
I drove. It was my buddy's Model 3 Performance. It wasn't a plaid or anything like that. And he once like had me like in the passenger seat, and he would just like tap it and like go like this, and you're knocking your head back. So I did it to him out of like a joke, just to like kind of get back at him. When I drove it, I think I knocked myself fully nauseous. Like I did it like 5 or 6 times, and by the time we like stopped, I'm like leaning over because I just like I'm so lightheaded from banging my head. I'm like, this is just like a Model 3. It's not even like a plaid or anything. Like what is that? Like it's uncomfortable.
You're not wrong at all about the nauseousness on that. Just before Christmas, I bought a Model 3 Performance. I had the electrical run in my garage. I got the wall charger in there, all that stuff. Got it in there. Everything's good to go. Driving up to one of those like Christmas light shows where you drive through like a park that they put Christmas lights up. The family that we're driving through there, and I told my wife, I was like, I'm really nauseous and car sick right now. This is weird. I think I must have eaten something that didn't sit well with me. She was like, all right, well, whatever. So the next day we're going on another little family drive somewhere, and I'm like, I'm nauseous again. She's like, oh, I wonder if you're okay. This happened like 4 or 5 times, and she looked at me. She's like, this is happening every time we drive. We come home and you're fine. Like half an hour, 40 minutes later, we drive, you get sick again.
Yeah.
So I started keeping a little log for the next 2-3 weeks. Every time I drove, I got car sick. So I sold it to Colonial Volkswagen.
Acceleration, or what was it like? Is it like an odor that it emits or something? Like what's going on?
I'm sure. I Googled the crap out of it. Some people said it's the acceleration. Some people said it's when your ears hear the sound of acceleration, the sound of an engine, the sound of a motor. They prepare your body for acceleration, and therefore you can handle the G-forces of that run. When you don't hear it, when it's instant, you never have a chance to have your body brace for it. It hits you differently. And then some people said it was just the glues that they use and the plastics and whatnot. It goes back. I didn't have the patience for that.
That's reasoning for making the Taycan sound like a Jetsons mobile.
Yeah.
Is to prepare people for speed.
That makes perfect sense.
It makes sense. Otherwise, it's just a silent hit in the back of the head. It doesn't. You might as well have someone come up and just knock you clean in the back, because that's what it feels like.
It is shocking. The immediacy of it all is shocking. There's nothing like it. I've never experienced any kind of sudden acceleration like that. But that car's still for sale right now. If anybody wants to buy it, they posted it. I sold it to a Colonial Volkswagen. It's still over there. So in Westboro. But yeah, man, I don't know. I wonder if it was just something like the glues or the plastics, but I wasn't going to wait around and figure it out.
Yeah, you'll have to get a Taycan and see if it's that.
Just for comparison's sake.
The Taycan, I had seen a bunch of them in photos and a couple on the road, but when I saw one in the flesh at I think it was Porsche Nashua had one in the showroom, just seeing it up close, sitting in it. That's an impressive looking car. The design on that, oh man, it took all the stuff I loved about the 911.
Like the Mission E, it looks exactly like it. They just took the concept car and made it.
Yep. The only other concept that did that was the first Audi TT. It looked just like the concept. It was the same idea here. Mission E to Taycan is so similar.
There's a few of them. I mean, like Ford GT was the first, like the early 2000s.
Oh, the 05,
05s, and then LC 500 is pretty close to the concept car, but I mean, it just doesn't happen very often. You get the
right. Yeah, it's rare. It's rare.
Yeah.
by the time all the safety folks get their hands on it, and things change quite a bit.
That's crazy.
It's a beautiful car, though.
Yeah. I am curious how you should for my own scientific purposes, like you should get a
For our edification, can you get one, please?
Yeah. He's gonna Taycan and let me know.
Write
I'll
it off
complain
as
to
business
Elon.
expense.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. I'll complain to Elon accordingly and measure it from.
I actually I'm a little smitten more by the RS e-tron GT. I like the design of that a little better
That's an
even
impressive
than the
looking
Taycan.
car, too.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same car with. I guess they don't have a Turbo S equivalent of that line. They're
Right,
still. I don't know if that's going to be coming down the line or if Porsche just kept that separate for themselves. And
Yeah.
I wish you could just tune those cars. Call up Unitronic or somebody. And
I'm sure it's a matter of time.
That's going to be interesting when that starts to become a thing.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be able to get so much more performance out of it.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna
At the risk of like burning a battery.
At the risk of becoming a fireball.
Yeah.
It's got to be. I know there's so much that Tesla does. I read this thing. I was considering it. I actually bought lightweight wheels forged wheels for my Tesla. They're sitting in my barn still. I bought the Titan 7 wheels that I never installed. They're sitting brand new. But I read this article. This guy said he did a whole bunch of tests with forged lightweight wheels versus the big heavy Uber turbine wheels that Tesla puts on there.
Yeah.
And he said no matter how he tested it, uphill, downhill, no matter what wheels, 4 people in the car, 1 person in the car, it always was a consistent 3.10 to 60. And he was like, there's no way that this weight is having no impact. There's no way that the uphill, downhill is not having an impact. The car is actually ramping up and pulling back power to meet that number that they advertise. Yeah. So if that's there, we just got to unlock that.
Yeah.
And have it run at that full load uphill power level.
Yeah, to make me nauseous faster.
Yeah, exactly. You drive it even less.
3.1, not fast enough. I need to throw up much sooner than that.
It's not in the twos. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That actually that's an interesting point. I mean, I'm curious how that works. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. The traction control they're able to do, I mean, it makes sense. They don't have to use any brakes or anything. It's just immediately to the electric motor. You can just do it as fast as you can do a microprocessor.
Absolutely. I love being able to unlock track mode on that thing, slide it to full rear wheel drive. And it was a rear wheel drive car. I mean, it was a high torque, instant power rear wheel drive car, which is the most fun kind I can think of.
So you could switch in the Tesla, like going all wheel drive or rear wheel drive, or
I don't know if all of them do, but I know the performance model does. You just you unlock. I think they call it drift mode, and then you just slide it anywhere from. It has a slider. You can adjust how many % you want front or rear, and you can just lock it all the way rear. Turn off traction control and go at it.
That's so.
Oh man.
It was fun. There's a lot of cool little things like that I thought would be gimmicky, but in hindsight, I miss them. I miss those little features. I miss being able to have it in the garage with the garage door closed, preheating and warming up for me every morning at a scheduled time. Every morning at 7:15, I'm taking the kids to school or whatever time it is, and the car was always warmed up and ready. You can't do that even with remote start because I'll kill the family with carbon monoxide poisoning.
You'll walk in and fall down.
This is only cars with Jeep Gladiator, so it's already got snow in it.
Yeah. I end up parking the Gladiator in the driveway, even though I have the garage spots empty right now because I want to use the remote start in the winter. So, I miss that feature.
How is the Gladiator been for you? Scott's just
that's Kate's. Oh, Scott has one too?
I just ordered a JL Wrangler Unlimited, so.
Oh, heck yeah!
I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
I thought I was gonna hate it. I've never been much of a truck guy. My wife loves big, burly off-road pickup trucks. She used to have a Ford Raptor, a 2018 Raptor. I convinced her to trade that thing in when I got the Q8, and she hated it. She hated the Q8. She wanted a truck. So I was getting ready to sell the Tesla. I have a contact at the VW dealership, And I reached out to him and I said, hey, you want to buy a Tesla? I saw he had 2 used ones in inventory. So I reached out to him and he was like, hey, what are you looking for? And I was like, I don't know. Let me take a look at your dealership and see what you've got. And I noticed he had a 2020 Gladiator Rubicon in that cool, like dark silver color with the big burly wheels on it and all the little doodads. And the price was right considering where the market was, just several months ago. So I traded the Tesla in for the Rubicon, brought it home to my wife, and she had the roof panels off today. Went driving around in it. That's a blast to drive. I thoroughly enjoy driving that car in all different ways from what I typically enjoy in sports cars, but it's a whole different driving experience. I can't wait for the summer to go doors off, roof off, and just take it on some off-road.
The one I ordered is like full stripper. Like it's got crank windows and no power locks. Yeah. It's like old school Wranglers I could get.
That's awesome, man. There's a huge amount of draw to that. Ours has a lot of the stuff. It has like the CarPlay and navigation, and even has driving assistance package like adaptive cruise and all that craziness. The front and rear cameras, all the tech that I kind of enjoy. I'm a fan of adaptive cruise. I can't use regular cruise control anymore, and I love adaptive cruise, and it has that. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping I don't miss. But that's what I'm hoping. I wanted a manual, so I was like, oh, I'll give it up.
Oh yeah, if you got a manual, then yeah, that's a good one to give up on. I wish more manual cars had adaptive cruise. I guess I get why they don't, but there's only a couple.
I totally get why they don't, because I feel like adaptive cruise is best when it can go down to 0 and get you through stop and go traffic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or else it's just gonna
Volvo. But yeah, if you try to do that in a stick, it would just be miserable.
Yeah,
you have to pay just as much attention.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of being able to just not have to pay as close attention those moments. Yeah, but it's you're gonna love the Jeep. The Jeep is pretty. It's a pretty badass vehicle. We drove it today for a while. Every time I drive, I think we put 7,000 miles on it in the last 3 months. So we've driven it quite a bit.
Yeah,
and I work from home, so
they're all pleasure miles.
yeah, we just go out and explore.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be good. I live by the beach, so I'm hoping it's going to be
beautiful.
Just the best beach vehicle.
I think it will be. I can't wait to the summertime. That's what I'm longing for, to pull the panels off, take the doors off. I was down in Miami a couple of years ago with the family, and we rented a Wrangler Unlimited, and when we rented it, we elected to rent it with no doors, no roof. It just had the little soft top that you can pull up. And we took it to Key West, and we drove from Miami all the way to Key West. And on the way back, we hit torrential downpours, like horrible rain.
Oh my God.
Doors are off. We have this little thin soft top that,
it's like
barely
a bimini
guards
top, basically.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. Yeah. And I've got the kids in the car, and at first we're like, oh crap, what do we do? And after like 5 minutes, we're like, fuck it, just enjoy it. And we got soaked, but we loved every minute of it. It was the most surreal experience, just going down the Keys. Water's just splashing in from everywhere. And I messaged the guy on Turo who I had rented from, and I was like, dude, it's raining. He's like, oh yeah, I saw the forecast. I was like, I'm sorry, your car's like soaked. He was like, I live in Florida. We get rain like this all the time. I knew it was going to happen.
Don't they still have the plugs in the floor, or some of them do?
Yeah.
No, they
still
do.
have them.
They all do.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Great.
That's awesome.
And the cloth seats, I was worried about the cloth seats. I thought they would get soaked, but I guess they're moisture wicking, and they have they basically keep the moisture sitting right on top. You just brush it off.
GWR. That's why I got the cloth. I was like,
I had no idea.
That's cool. I didn't know
So
that.
cool.
So yeah, that was quite an experience. That's part of what led me to be open to the Jeep experience. And when my wife said she wanted this one, I was like, all right, let's get it done. No regrets.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty.
Because I can't afford an NAS Defender, so.
My wife's thing is she wants to be able to beat the crap out of a car and not worry about it. She wants to be able to run over a curb and not think twice about it. Potholes or anything like that. She doesn't want to have to worry about what the kids are bringing in the car, or their shoes are muddy, or if we got a Defender, if we got really any expensive luxury, even if it's off-road capable, she just wouldn't be able to just let loose and like I haven't vacuumed the inside of the Jeep at all. At all. It's the same way it was from the day I got it till now. And it's filthy and I don't care. And she doesn't care. The kids bring muddy shoes in there and I don't care. It's just that
Yeah, that's
freedom.
what I'm hoping the Jeep ends up being, because I have two gigantic dogs and I just want it to be like, I don't care.
Just throw them in.
Yep.
That's,
Yep.
the moment,
That's exactly
that's
how
a
it's gonna
luxury in
be.
itself, isn't it? That is
Absolutely.
like a form
That
of
is
luxury
luxury.
in itself. Is not.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, definitely.
out of mind, you just don't have to worry. But that's like the problem of having something that's nice and it's
The
now
problem
worried.
I had with my V70, because I was stupid and bought the nicest one possible. And I
You had a
didn't overpay.
V70?
I just sold it on Bring a Trailer.
What
actually.
year did you have?
An 05 V70R. It was thick. It was red.
Nice. I had the previous generation. I had a silver one, the
Nice.
old boxy one,
Oh,
the
right
V70R. I had a V70R silver one. I love that thing, man.
I liked it,
Alcantara interior.
but yeah, mine had an Alcantara interior too. Actually, someone put it in it, and it was fantastic. Yeah, I just got way too nice as an example, and I was too scared to get rock chips in it every time I took it to work. I was like, I
Yeah,
can't ruin
that's-
this car. I can't ruin it.
Mine had like 210,000 miles, and I drove it for like 2 years, many, many years ago, and then I gave it to my brother-in-law, and he drove it for a couple of years until it died.
Yeah, that's.
I don't remember what
I
happened to it.
prefer my
Yeah.
cars like that. Like, I like to buy a slightly crappy example that I don't care if the dogs come with me in and stuff. And that was not the right car. Like my Mustang, I was like, my German Shepherd rode shotgun all the time. I was like, I don't care about this car. Jump
Whatever,
in.
throw them
Let's
in.
go. Yeah, I didn't want to ever do that with the V70. I was like, oh, everything's too perfect.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, I always have that conflicting battle though, where I want the perfect example,
Yeah.
but I don't want to deal with the perfect example.
Right.
And you do a lot of. I mean, you get them like often. You bring it to Ryan and have him do the full expel and the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
9 yards on it. So I guess
Almost
in that
every-
way you protect every.
But it's even with that though, you still worry about all the little things that could happen to it. But yeah, I that peace of mind is worth its weight in gold for me. Ryan's done almost every single car I've had. I used to only have him do the ceramic coating, but then recently he's been doing the full expel on the car. The Miami Blue Spider that I just bought already has expel and ceramic coating from the previous owner. So I
Nice.
saved like what 8,000 or whatever the cost is of that, $9,000 or whatever.
That's good.
But yeah, that's been helping me to not have to worry about the little dings and whatnot.
Yeah.
I thought that I ruined my rear E46. I bought a nice E46 M3 California. Then I drove it back across the country, and the Nevada desert ruined all the wheels. And I was like, okay, it's perfect.
Ruined now.
It's ruined now.
Wait,
I couldn't believe what they looked like. I was having way too much fun with a guy in a 911 Turbo, like between Reno and Utah. And
Yeah.
oh my God, when I pulled off in Salt Lake, I was like, I have destroyed these wheels.
It's an
It looked like
experience,
someone
though.
just sandblasted them. It looked like.
That's the experience though. I've driven cross country like, I don't know, 6 or 7 times. I do it on purpose, intentionally do it. It's I wouldn't
love it.
trade that for
It's
anything.
best.
Yeah.
I
Has
love
anybody
driving
else here
across
done
the
that?
country.
Cross country drive?
I have.
John,
that was gonna be my
Yeah.
next. That was gonna be my next conversation. Was my next question was out of all those, you're the first person I've heard that's like flown out to California, bought a car there, and then just drove it back and then sold it by the time you got back here.
You
That's
sold it before you got back?
So I
That's
bought
awesome.
I was in California and I was ready to fly back. My business is all there. It's all in Cali. And I was flying back home and we had a horrible snowstorm here. So my flight got canceled at the airport. I was going to actually not check in, but board the plane. And they're scanning my boarding pass. And it made that little doo-doo beep sound after they scanned it. And he was like, oh, sir, hold on, come back here. Your connecting flight from Denver to Boston has been canceled. So we can't take you to Denver because you'll be stuck in Denver. So I'm like, what? So I go sit down for a minute to call my wife, go to the desk, and they're like, yeah, we've got no flights to Boston for like 2 days. I'm like, shit, I'm not going to sit here in California. I was done. California wears me out. I was like, I want to go back home. So I left the airport,
goes to
took an
Craigslist.
Uber. I took an Uber back towards the hotel that I was staying in while I'm perusing I think it was like Car Gurus or Cars.com, and I found an NC Miata, 2009 Miata, for like $5,500. It was way underpriced, high mileage, but it looked clean. And I was like, California car for $5,500. I know I can sell this for like 7-8K when I get back home to Boston. So I went, bought the car, threw temporary tags on it, no plate. California gives you a little piece of paper that's your temporary registration. Stuck that on the windshield, threw my suitcase in the back, and drove cross country. And when I got here, I sold it for like 8K or something like that.
That's
But
awesome.
that drive home was therapeutic. I didn't pick any destination that I tried to go to. I would just say, okay, today I'm going to drive 8 hours in the general direction, like I'm on Highway 80 for whatever distance.
Yeah,
And then I would find a city when I got tired, find a restaurant that was like some hole in the wall place, and do the same thing the next day. It was wonderful.
So-
It was the most
I
liberating
absolutely love
experience.
driving across the country. Done it a couple times now. It's fantastic.
I gotta do it again.
I love it.
One
I
thing
actually missed
regretted
that.
doing was I drove from Chicago all the way to where I live in Maine in one day, and that was way too far. That is way too
Dude, that
far.
That's a
was-
long
That
drive in one
15,
day.
17.
That was so
Dude,
bad.
that's what I did. That's what I did.
Oh, man.
On my way out to Denver, I did Boston to Chicago, then Chicago to Denver, and each one's 15 to 16 hours. I
Yeah,
realized it was
that's
a huge
nuts.
mistake, and I was like, "This was."
I realized it about Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I was like, I am way too tired to be driving right now.
I can't do that many hours in the day. 8 hours, 9 hours. That's kind of it for me per day.
Yeah, I think I was also like testing myself to see if I could do it.
You
So I was
did
like-
that second day from Chicago to Denver. You crossed the plains with no stop.
One
needed.
go.
Oh
One
my
go.
God.
But by the time I did it, I was like, okay, I know where my limit is. It's that. I'm not doing it again. But it was like I wanted to know, so I did it. But yeah, I mean, especially the plains, like going through Nebraska, pitch black, and it's literally just light for hours on end is one of the more difficult things I've ever had to do. But like once you get past it and you like know you can do it, it kind of gives you the confidence to like drive through anything. But yeah, I was seeing ghosts at that point. I was hallucinating like different things because
I think
It's
the
just
only
one,
reason
one,
I
one,
didn't
one.
go crazy in Nevada, because that was the longest distance I've ever seen on my GPS, like before turn, was as
Yep.
soon as I got on in Nevada, it was like 632 miles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And the only
That's
reason I
trippy.
didn't go insane is because of that guy in the orange 911. That was the
Yep.
only reason. It's because we just went really fast. It's 'cause
yeah.
one of my the things that take me forever when I'm doing these cross country drives is almost every chance, unless I have like a specific time I have to be a certain place, I will
Yeah.
always avoid highways. And I'll go through the cities and towns. It'll take me 5 times as long, sometimes literally 5 times as long. But I like to actually drive through the towns, even the red lights and the horrible traffic in the city. I enjoy that because I get to see that town, not from the perspective of the highway that cuts through it, but the actual town, see the people and have the guys look at me funny in my little blue Miata driving cross country. It's part of the experience. I love that. I'll always do that anytime I can. I'll try to avoid highways and take it through cities.
Do you have a preferred, I guess, like, do you take the higher route, the kind of like middle 70 route, or what's like your kind of general like go-to direction for that?
I typically just avoid highways and let it take me where it takes me. I don't really, I either am trying to get someplace at a certain time, in which case I pop open Waze and I get there as fast as I can, or I'm just driving for the sake of driving, in which case I just say avoid highways and let it take me where it takes me. I don't pick a route. I just let it do what it does. Have you guys used the Porsche Roads app?
No,
Have you
what
guys
is
heard
that?
of-
No.
So there's an app called Roads by Porsche. It's open to any iOS user. They don't have an Android app yet, but only iOS, where you just put in your location and people have inputted special routes that they enjoy. And
Really?
you basically, it will just say like, hey, these special routes are near you. And it tells you like what time of day is best to go and what the surroundings are like. And then you just said go and it navigates you to that start point through the route and then back wherever you want to go. That's my go-to app when I'm trying to just go out and have a fun drive. I'll just open that up.
Great.
When you're driving
That's a
cross
great
country,
idea.
yeah, man. When you're driving cross country, that opens up a whole new element because as you're driving in different cities and states, you get to look up the cool roads that are there.
This
And
one?
not like that's the one.
Yeah.
And you're not just looking up the roads that are like public, it's not like Tail of the Dragon where every, person and their mother is driving, or the Kank in New Hampshire in the fall where every single car, it's backed up bumper to bumper. These are roads that like people inputted on their own personal journeys through their day to day that they found was a fun drive. So really cool app. And they
That's a
add more
really cool-
roads constantly. Love that app.
I assume they were independent and Porsche realized how brilliant of an idea it is and they bought them. Or did Porsche come up with it?
Honestly, I think I don't remember because ever since I've known them, it's been Roads by Porsche or Porsche Roads or whatever. But I suspect that it was a standalone app that was bought out by Porsche. And it's CarPlay compatible. So for those of you that have CarPlay, it works with navigation on CarPlay. So
That's so rad.
it's a sick app. Love it.
That's really cool. Have you ever thought about doing like something, I guess, like molding work-related IT stuff with something in the car industry, or has that been two separate things for you?
I'm trying to wind down the work side of things right now in my life, so I don't want to intertwine. But I'd love to find more things that I can do in the automotive world, things to keep me company and not keep me company, keep me busy. On the automotive side of things, that's kind of I want to separate from technology. I have a passion for technology. I'm a gadget freak. I love all the different tech stuff. I mean, I have boxes of parts all around me right now of different things, and I love exploring and experimenting with technology. But ultimately, it's just a means to an end. I love cars. That's the true side. So I haven't tried to mingle with the two, intermingle the two. Maybe the good idea, the right idea comes along, and I can find a way. Make the new Roads app. That's how I found the Roads app. I was like, I got a great idea. I'm going to build an app that's all about these cool roads. And I started Googling it, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
By Porsche. Yeah,
I was going to say, of course, Porsche beat you to it.
It's not even like an unknown app. It's like fucking Porsche has it. So
yeah, we cornered that market. We have to try.
Yeah.
It was so disheartening. I was like, that's it. No more of this blending tech and car.
Yeah.
It's a great app, though. Definitely try it out.
Yeah. Okay. I will download that. That's just such a cool idea.
It was really cool.
Matt, you've been a little quiet there.
Yeah, well, I've been enjoying listening to your conversation, so glad to just ride along for that. One thing I was going to ask you, and we tangentially got to this earlier. So, I have heard a lot of things about you in the time that I've known John. All good things. I promise, I'm not lying. Mostly that you had like incredibly awesome cars that I would love to experience, and the generosity that you have presented to John. Letting him take the cars for the day or the weekend or whatever. Is brought a smile to my face alone, because I've been extended that generosity a couple of times, and it just that means it's worth its weight in gold. What I was going to ask you though is have you had such how do I want to phrase this? So you had the RS7, you've had some Mercedes and stuff. Is that just something that you don't see yourself enjoying, or it's been a while since you've had them, or
good question.
Yeah.
I adore the big luxury sports sedan cruisers, right? I love that category of cars. I feel like I have limited number of days where I can cram my ass into a Porsche carbon bucket seats. So I'm trying to get that out of the way now. While I can row a stick shift and manage the pedals and deal with all of that. I know that once I'm tired of that, once I can't physically enjoy that the same way, I'm gonna have the rest of my automotive life in a S63 AMG or something like that. I know I will have many years in a car like that. Probably an RS6 Avant or an RS7 or an S63 one of those big luxury barges. So yeah, those days are still ahead of me.
Yeah. So have you, I mean, I guess, like, do you enjoy the rotation of vehicles more than you would enjoy, say, like, having a S550 just as your daily, where it's like, okay, like, the XYZ car like rattled my brain. I need to just get in something where I feel nothing.
I think the whole concept of a daily is lost on me because I work from home. My wife works from home. I have
Yeah.
2 younger kids whose school is like half a mile away, so I don't drive anywhere. The
Okay.
thought of
Yeah.
I've never really enjoyed waste. I don't mind spending. I don't like wasting. So the thought of a car that's supposed to be my daily driver not get driven daily and just sit there just
Yeah.
irks me. And I feel like, well, I could just drive my wife's Jeep when I need to. She works from home. She does nothing.
We can edit
Not
that
that she
out.
does nothing. She doesn't drive often at all. Because when she does, I'm already going out to run an errand, so I just pick up things. She does everything. Okay, this amazing woman. Anyways, I can just hop in her Jeep and just do the same thing there without the waste. So in the past, I would always try to categorize a car as my daily and try to separate it from everything else. But then it would irk me that it's just sitting there and I'm paying the excise tax and maintaining it and insuring it, and it's depreciating, and that wears on me. So for that reason, I don't see myself ever having a true daily like that.
I get it.
Understandable. Yeah, that makes sense, especially with no commute.
I sometimes wish for a commute. I wish I had a job in Boston where I drove 40 minutes every day and I could buy a car for that purpose and actually use it. But that lasts for like 30 seconds, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah, right. You do that in 2 days, like, I can't do this anymore.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it's the what you just described there is something that I went through the exact. I mean, you knew I had that like GX, and I actually absolutely love that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain point, I was gonna have that and the 86, which was my original plan. But I was like, why? Like, I'm like, I don't have a family that I need to take care of. Really, I don't have like any large pets like Scott. Like, why do I like when I buy the 86 or whatever fun car, like, what's the point of like it is waste. I mean, I'm just paying to insure
I
it.
asked myself that too, because I have the V60 and I'm like, why do I have the V60 cross country? Like,
I mean, you ended up selling,
that's fun.
Oh yeah, the V60, yeah. Forgot you do that.
Like, that's fun, and then I can. Why have one that's just boring? That's stupid.
That old life's too short to drive boring cars.
Exactly.
It's totally
But
true.
you need
though.
one that works. So like, I needed to get the newer Jeep. Like the two Land Rovers is not.
That's a work from home.
So it's the sports car, 2 Land Rovers, because that's functionally 1 Land Rover, and then
you had an LR3, right, Ari? Like,
I had an LR4.
Oh,
yeah,
LR3.
LR4.
It's fantastic.
I stole that LR4, man. I bought that thing. It had high miles, but it was a one-owner LR4, 2011, with the HSE Lux package. So it had like every option.
Right
the air
on.
suspension still worked on it, which was
Did you have the
crazy.
timing chains
Shocking.
done?
Everything was done. Everything was done.
Okay.
Maintenance records up the ass. It had 160,000 miles on it, but it was like flawless. The interior, the driver's seat had a marginal amount of wear on it. By marginal, I mean like well below what that car should have had. Like no rips or cracks, just some wear. The rest of the seats weren't even used. The third row had never been unflipped. It was just tucked, you fold them down flat. They were flat. They had never been opened. There was a sales guy that just drove everywhere, and it was just him in the car. And he took clients once in a while, probably like a real estate guy or something. And I bought that thing for $6,500.
Wow.
And I drove it for, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. Kate drove it. I barely drove it.
You actually stole that.
Yeah, right? I mean, I could sell that today for like 12, 13, 14 grand, even with the miles we put on it. So we ended up giving it to my wife's father, my wife's mother. She got into a car accident and she had one-way insurance. She wasn't covered, so her car was totaled. So I actually drove that to Louisiana and dropped it off to her. It's a funny story about the drives, right? Wow. I was like, hey, I don't want to ship it. I'll drive it there. And then I was like, well, I don't want to fly back. So I rented a car in Louisiana, drove it to Florida to pick up an Audi TT that my wife wanted, and drove the Audi TT
That's
back
awesome.
home. So left in a
That's
Land
so
Rover,
cool.
came back in a TT in 2 weeks. It was a fun journey.
It was the TT I saw with the baseball glove interior, right?
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Oh,
You still
2006
have it?
special edition. It was a VR6 DSG. 2006 was, they only made one of 99 in that exact model spec, and it had the one of 99 placard. Bought that
That's
puppy
so
in Florida. One again, a one owner, 80,000 mile car, 70,000 miles. And bought
Do you
that
still
and
have
drove
it?
it back. I just sold that. It was sitting in the garage. Nobody's driving it. My wife was like, I have the Jeep now. I'm good. My wife, for a while, she wanted that car because I kept, that daily driver that we were talking about. I kept
Yeah.
nudging and forcing her to get a car that I would like to drive as my daily. So I'm like, here's a RS7, here's a Q8, and she didn't like those. So I would offset the fact that she didn't like that by getting her something like the TT that she liked on the side. So by forcing her into a car she didn't like, I was wasting another car that sat there. So finally I was like, you know what?
Bargaining token.
Give her the Jeep. Give her the Jeep. Give her the big truck she likes. She's happy. Now I can buy a car that's no compromise for me.
Yeah. Then you can get your
Love that LR4
PAC
though.
mono or something like that.
Yeah, I love my LR3. It's just comfortable.
Yeah, it was a really comfortable car.
Comfortable. It's the
So-
last. I think it's the last kind of utilitarian Land Rover.
Yep,
The
I think you're
LR4 is a
right.
bit more luxury than the LR3, but the
Mhm.
LR3 is like still Jeepy inside.
It still had the 5-liter V8. I heard the later LR4 switched to the supercharged 6
Yeah,
or
they did.
something, and the V8 was still a great motor. Had tons of power. The visibility is what I still remember about that car. Being
Yeah,
such a
that's the best
boss.
part of it. It's just glass.
Glass.
Yeah,
everywhere.
I could
Glass.
place that car better than any other car we've owned. And parking and parallel parking anywhere in tight quarters. I knew exactly where the car was. Love that thing.
Discovery 2 I have is even more glass. Like that thing's just glass.
It is glass.
incredible.
That's
Yeah.
your side impact structure.
The
is
car is
glass.
literally half glass
Well,
at that point.
yeah, I wouldn't want to get T-boned in the Discovery. The door is like this thick.
I heard, Mr. S550 man over there, I heard that the LR4's V8 has the same core as the Coyote
Yeah.
Mustang engine. Is
Yeah.
that accurate? That's accurate. Wow.
It's modified from it, and it's based on the the Jaguar AJ V8, like in the LR3, the 4.4, that became the 5.0, but that's originally like a Ford base.
It's a modular 4.6, right?
Yeah.
Basically, with a bunch of
4.6
stuff changed.
Ford.
It's really not the same, but so it kind of became it's kind of the Coyote, but it has problems the Coyote doesn't have.
Yeah, if you follow that same
problems.
I
If you
had
follow that same logic, it's basically a Koenigsegg 5-liter, right? It's they all stem from it's all the same thing, right? They
Yeah,
all
from
That's
from
really
the
what I'm gonna call
Volvo S80.
Yeah.
you guys got time
all
for
the
a
Land
quick
Rover
story?
V8s now. They're Koenigsegg engines.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. You guys got time for a quick story about that LR4
course.
when I was driving it to Louisiana?
Absolutely.
So I'm driving it, like I said, to Louisiana. I'm coming through like Tennessee or something like that in the middle of nowhere. It's Friday afternoon, about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I start hearing this like metallic kind of noise. I'm like, oh, what's that noise? I don't know. I'm watching the gauges all look normal. I'm like, all right, I'll keep an eye on it. I was talking on the phone with my wife. I was like, hey, let me let you go. Let me listen to the car for a bit. So I keep driving and I notice the temperature gauge starts to climb. I'm like, oh shit. Turn off the car, stop. I'm like, I'm not going to start this thing. Let it chill for a minute, pop the hood. Everything looks okay. Start it up again. Temperature gauge starts climbing again. Horrible metallic kind of whirring noise. Turn it off again. I was like, oh shit. Called my wife. I was like, yeah, this is going to be a problem. It's Friday night. It's like 6 o'clock. I don't even know, maybe 6:30. Start it up again. Temperature gauge goes back to normal. No more whirring noise. I'm like, all right, well, that was weird. Whatever it was, I'm praying that I can just get to Louisiana. So I just keep driving. 3-4 minutes later, noise comes back. Temperature gauge goes up. It gets worse. It gets worse. Then I lose power steering. All the lights come on. Car shuts off. I'm like, oh, crap. So I just kind of coasted into a little pizza shop parking lot, pull out my phone, and I start looking for mechanics in the area. Nothing. I found a 24/7 tow yard. I called them and I'm like, hey, do you guys have a mechanic that can like come help me, tow me to your shop and look at what's going on. I don't know. I have no tools with me. I have nothing. And they were like, yeah, it sounds like you're shit out of luck, man. And I'm like, yeah, wow. So this is Southern hospitality. I wasn't expecting this much love. So I'm not finding anybody. I'm like, I don't know where to look. There's nothing nearby. No hotels near me anywhere. I can't even find an Uber to like get to an AutoZone or something. I look up the Uber app and there's no cars available in the area. No Lyft cars available in the area. I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't even know where to go from here. So I go on Craigslist and I go to the resumes section on Craigslist in the area that I'm in, and I look for mechanics, like people posting ads. Hey, I'm a mechanic and I'm looking for a job. And I contacted one of them.
That's
I'm
brilliant.
like, hey, you're a mechanic. You need a job. And he was like, yeah, I do some side mobile work on the side. And I'm hearing his like wife and kids. He's like, I'm working on a project right now. I'm doing a timing chain on some kind of car. I'm like, all right, I'm stuck on the side of the road. He's like, all right, I'll be there at 9:30 at night after my job. So he knows exactly what's going on as I describe it to him. He's like, your accessory belt snapped. Pop a look under, you'll see a belt shredded somewhere. And if it snapped, it's because something else seized and caused it. Maybe your water pump, maybe a tensioner. He's like, most likely it's your tensioner. So he calls his wife calls a bunch of places, finds a tensioner, finds a belt at a local AutoZone. They go pick it up.
He
Come
found
to the
a
side
Land
of the
Rover belt at an AutoZone.
He found
in the
a
middle of
Land Rover.
nowhere.
He came to me on the side of the road on a Friday night at like 10 o'clock and replaced the belt on the side of the pizza shop with his two little kids in the back of the car. So the wife is talking to me. They're super, super nice. Like I feel like they were angels sent by God to save me that day. At the end of it all, the lady's like, this is going to cost you, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I know. Side of the road, emergency service, late at night, kids are sleeping in the car. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of money. She's like, yeah, $186. I was like, oh, is that how much? I didn't want to say, is that how much the belt is? Like, how much is it? She was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, here's $250. I had some cash. I gave her $250 cash. I was like, you guys, these prices are
wow.
great. I'm gonna bring all my car projects down here. From now on.
Yeah, right.
I got a full-time job
$35 an hour. Yeah. But that was an experience right there, man. I couldn't believe
wild.
it.
Where was this again? This was on the way to
Tennessee.
Louisiana. Tennessee.
It was in
man.
Tennessee.
So did you have the pizza for dinner?
No. So I went to inside the pizza shop and I was like, hey, my car's broken down. I'm in your parking lot. I'm really sorry. They're like, yeah, well, you can't stay there. I was like,
Wow.
It's not going anywhere. I was like, you're going to tow me? Please, I need a tow. So
Yeah.
you're gonna tow the car.
Please tell me.
Yeah, please tow me to a shop. But they were like, well, you gotta move it somehow. I was like, I'm working on it. And I just went out. They didn't bother me again, but I chose not to be a patron of theirs.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't be a patron of a business like that. That's a shame.
I'm like, man, you can see that I'm driving cross country and not cross country, but well, yeah. North south.
It's far.
Yeah.
Long drive. That's a long drive.
Certainly far.
Yeah,
Wow,
man, that was a good
wild.
experience.
I don't think we can top that. That's pretty good. Tennessee is always a great area. I always love visiting there for car show in May. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I run into these people somehow and give them $20 or something. But
yeah, I think I have the invoice from that service somewhere. I kept it because it was like a memorable experience for
Yeah,
me.
that's a nice memento.
Oh yeah. So lucky I found them.
you guys have any other questions for Ari? I think we'll end up closing it up. But it was a pleasure as always talking to you, and I hope we can do this again.
Yeah,
I'm game, man. The pleasure is all mine. Talking car, I could do this all day, every day.
That's all.
So,
that's what this is all about, anyways.
Yeah,
I'd love to be here with you guys anytime, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was great meeting you all. Wonderful
yeah, great
conversation,
to meet you
guys.
too, Ari.
You
Thanks
too.
for your time. Be well.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Take care,
We'll see you next
everyone.
week.
Bye bye.